If your dream is to nail songs and play really well with a great band, then this lesson is for you. But unfortunately, many online resources actually make the whole process of song learning more complicated than it really needs to be. Today we're discussing the 3 ways that many online educational resources are actually misleading your ability to become a great band drummer. And I'll give you the solution for turning this around and becoming the great, confident musical player who nails songs. You can do this. Hey everyone, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out with me today. I help hobby drummers and semi-pro players become the musicians that others want to play with and want to listen to. And we do this by teaching you the core drumming skills that save you time in the practice room. That's big because I know you're busy, you got a busy life, you're trying to balance drums with work and with family, and so it's not something you can spend all day on. I get that. And so you've got to streamline your practicing. But the truth is when you know what to practice, you can really make a lot of progress much more quickly. And hey, while you're here, how would you like to be able, speaking of saving time, how would you like to be able to learn any song you want to in under an hour and without consulting sheet music or drum tabs or online tutorials? Well, I've got a free PDF e-guide for you called that, 5 Steps to Learning Any Song in Under an Hour. And this is really cool because it walks you through my 5-step process. This is basically your written companion to today's lesson. And I definitely want you to check it out. Don't leave the video today without grabbing that guide because you can download it, print it off, take it to your practice room. But we talk about how to write a cheat sheet chart. It's basically like how to hack your way through learning a song much more quickly than you ordinarily could. We talk about listening skills, how to get the song on paper quickly. Even if you're not a charts person, even if you don't know notation, that's fine. Because what we want to do is use this cheat sheet chart to memorize the song. And when you can memorize the song, you play more musically and you play a lot more confidently. There's a certain level of confidence that it's hard to put a price tag on that comes with really knowing and understanding a song and understanding song form. Lots of cool stuff we dig into here. We're going to talk about a lot of this in today's lesson, but this guide is kind of like your written companion, so don't miss it. It's in the description below. Let's get on with today's lesson. The big core truth that we're getting at today that I've seen in myself and in many of my students is that you can learn songs faster and become a more musical drummer if you avoid these 3 misleading tactics, which is what we're getting into. I'm going to share with you what these 3 misleading tactics are, but we're going to wrap up with talking about the right way to learn songs, the right way to approach learning songs, because I want you to be able to sit down and learn a 30-song set for a gig or a 60-song set for a gig. I've played so many different songs on cover gigs, and I've had to figure out ways over time to learn them quickly. And that's what I want you to be able to do. I want you to be empowered to go and learn songs and go play with a band confidently and not feel overwhelmed by that. The thing is, there's a lot of misleading information out there that isn't necessarily bad, but it doesn't help you actually become that drummer who's able to independently and confidently learn material and nail it like you've played it 100 times. So that's what I want to help you do. So getting into this, we've got to define internet. Since I said in the title, 3 ways the internet is misleading your song learning. What do we mean by internet? Well, I'm talking about some of the big drum channels out there. I won't name anybody. Some of the big drum channels that tend to teach some of these, what I believe are misleading tactics. And also the big drum education websites. Basically everybody who's glamorous. Let's be honest, that's what I'm getting at. This is the non-glamorous drummer here, but any of the other resources out there that are more glamorous, they tend to be the ones that I think are guilty of this. And I think this will make a little more sense as we get into this. So number one misleading tactic is that the internet pushes the use of sheet music. Now, the big pro, and we're going to talk pros and cons here. I want this to be fair and balanced so we address everything here. The big pro of sheet music is that you can learn pretty much these days any like classic song, any song you want to, note for note, exactly how the original drummer played it. And that's really cool. That can be a powerful tool. Like if you're learning a Rush song and you want to play that crazy stuff that Neil Peart played note for note and play it right, you can get some sheet music that'll really help you do that. And so that can be really cool. But the big con here, and the big thing you got to think about, is that this is not helping you learn to listen or create. You know, if you're learning songs by sheet music, that's not helping you learn how to improvise. That's not teaching you anything about how to create the right part for a song, how to sound good when you're having to fly by the seat of your pants and play a song you don't know well. Because that's just not real life. You know, learning songs by sheet music, that's not real life. That's the kind of thing you might do in school, you might do in drum lessons with your teacher. If you major in music, you might do things like that. And if you've got all the time in the world, you might do things like that just for fun. But when it comes to gig time, the real world is where you might have a few minutes to last minute prepare for a song, or suddenly you realize, oh, we're doing that song? I haven't heard that song before. Okay, I'm just going to try to hang in there and survive. The skills that you need to do that you're not going to learn that by using sheet music. So the question that I have to ask you, and that I need you to answer right now in your head, is what are your goals? I'll give you kind of two camps here. Is your goal to play complex songs in your bedroom, or is your goal to create musical drum parts and play well with a band? My guess, I don't want to stereotype everybody here, my guess is that if you're watching this channel and if you're at all a fan of the Non-Glamorous Drummer, then your goal is to sound great with a band. You want to be a musical drummer who nails stuff and just sounds awesome, and who sounds great no matter what you're playing, where you can just sit down in any playing scenario and have that fluidity around the kit and that musical memory and just be able to sound awesome. I hope that's your goal. That's always been my goal, and those are the things I've worked hard to do well, and I hope that you're working at those things too. If you're the drummer that you just want to play complex songs in your bedroom, like I might have been guilty of when I was in high school, when I had all the time in the world to do that, if that's you, this might not really be for you. Maybe some of those other big internet resources are for you, if your goal is just to play complex songs in your bedroom, but not actually be a great gigging drummer. I want to help you be a great gigging drummer. So let's continue here. Way number 2, misleading tactic number 2. The internet pushes the use of tutorial videos, and that's thanks to YouTube. I mean, on YouTube, you can find a tutorial video for anything, and the big pro here is that you can see somebody break down and demonstrate exactly how the original drummer played whatever that song is, or better yet, you can watch the original drummer break down exactly how he or she played that drum track on that famous Grammy Award-winning hit song from 1985. That's so cool. I mean, I'm not going to deny that that's awesome. You can learn the exact drum parts as the original drummer played it, and maybe even watch the original drummer teach it to you. That's really enlightening, and that is powerful, but you've got to know how to use that in a smart way and not get out of balance here and try to learn everything this way. Some things it might be beneficial to learn from a tutorial breakdown video like that, but you don't have time to learn everything that way, because that's the big con. This takes way too long. If you've got to learn a 30-song set for a cover gig, you don't have time to go watch all these drummers on YouTube teach you exactly how this fill goes and how this part goes. There's no time for that. It'll take an eternity to do that for 30 songs. And so if you want to be a gigging drummer, you've got to learn how to do that yourself, and how to listen and how to figure out these things without having to go and consult, the sheet music and the tutorial videos, because that takes forever. If you're a kid in high school who's wanting to learn a few specific songs, and you're getting into this and you've got all the time in the world, this can be a good thing. Tutorial videos can be great, but there comes a time when you've got to figure out how to do this on your own, because that's just not the real world. You've got to be ready to just get thrown into the fire, fly by the seat of your pants, and figure things out. I know I keep referring to that, and I've been in so many gig situations like that where it's like, okay, we didn't rehearse that song, but here it goes on the gig. Or even I might be playing at church and it's like, oh, we didn't have time to hit that song, but we're going to play it anyways. And so I just got to listen and pay attention and not miss any cues and come up with something that sounds good. Part of me loves that, because that's a really cool, creative, free feeling as a drummer when you could just improvise and make stuff up, and you've got that pressure of, all right, this is it. I got to do this. I've got to rise to the occasion. But the skills that you're going to learn that empower you to do that do not come from watching tutorial videos. They come from these other things I'm going to share with you in a minute. Let's move on to misleading tactic number 3. And in a way, this kind of encompasses all of this. The internet is teaching you short-term solutions. Basically, the internet is teaching you how to play songs versus being a song player. I want you thinking about that. Do you want to play songs, or do you want to be a really good song player? Let's dive a little more into this. So it makes me think of a friend I had in high school who was really great at Guitar Hero. And back when I was in high school, this was like late 2000s, and everybody was into Guitar Hero. That was the thing. And so I had some friends who were really good at it. And this one guy was particularly just amazing at Guitar Hero. And he would challenge everybody. We actually would do this at church. We would, like on a Wednesday night youth group, we'd be playing Guitar Hero. And this guy would challenge everybody, and nobody could beat him. But then, come to find out, he was only really good at this one song. He was that guy who could nail this one song on expert level and just go crazy at it, nail it to perfection. Nobody else could possibly do it. But as soon as somebody was like, hold on a second, let's do this song, let's do this other song, he got all defensive and worried, and He couldn't do it. He knew that one song really well and maybe like one or two others pretty well. And so he was kind of the one-trick pony. It's so funny because it also makes me think of that Chinese proverb you've heard. If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. My friend in high school, you know, it was kind of like he'd been fed a fish. That fish was that one song that he could do really well, and he could nail that one song. But he couldn't do all of them that well, so it's hard to say, did he actually have Guitar Hero skills, or did he just have the ability to play that song? If you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So my goal, what I want to do here for you, is teach you how to fish. I want you to not be just a drummer that can play some songs, but I want you to be a drummer who is a great song player and who can nail any song because of the core principles that are in place. That's what we're all about here on the Non-Glamorous Drummer, learning core principles, those deep fundamental things that actually carry over to everything you ever do. And there are core song learning principles too. What I want you to be able to do is learn songs on your own, for one, create parts, and improvise. That is the dream. When you can do that, when you can listen to a song and know how to play it, and then furthermore be able to improvise and kind of make it your own in a way, or maybe you're playing with an original band and you've got to come up with parts from scratch, I want you to be able to do that confidently, knowing that what you're doing sounds good. And believe it or not, there is a process for how we do this. Let's talk a little about this. Now I'm going to share with you the right way to learn songs. This is the non-glamorous song learning method. Now we're going to fly through this because there are so many parts and pieces to this. But that's why I mentioned that guide earlier that I'll tell you a little more about that kind of condenses all this into a nice, simple PDF so that you can take this and apply this and take action on it. The first thing you got to do is deepen your ability to listen. And my favorite exercise for doing that is a really fun one. I call it the critical listening exercise. And that's pretty much what it is, nothing creative. The idea is you're listening critically because you're not just sitting there passively listening. It's not like you're, pushing your shopping cart through the grocery store and you're hearing a song playing and, oh yeah, I'm listening to that song. No, you're not. Because you really can't hear it much anyways because you're in a grocery store. That's not really listening, and that's definitely not critical listening. Even if you're listening to a song in the car, and it's hard to say whether or not you can really critically listen in the car because you're busy driving, there's other road noise. If you drive an old car like I do, then you're probably not going to hear every nuance of the recording anyways because you got all the road noise, unless you're in a fancy new smooth car. But even then, I think critical listening can really only happen at its best if you've got a dedicated set of speakers, you're sitting there listening, or better yet, I think, headphones. So put your headphones on. And what I like to do is just sit and listen to a song. Pick a song, preferably a song you like. It doesn't have to be a song you don't like. Pick a song you like and just listen to it over and over again. And each time you listen through it, each pass, listen to something different, like a different element. So maybe the first time you're listening to the drums, the second time the bass, third time the vocal, then the guitar, and then the keys or piano, or whatever other parts are going on. That way, by the time you've listened to it 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you've actually taken in all of it, and you've probably heard something that you haven't heard before, because before you've always just skimmed through it, but now you're actually thoroughly listening. And so I have a very specific exercise called the 6 listen exercise. We break it down in another video here on the channel and in that 5 steps to learning any song in under an hour guide. Definitely check that out. I'll link the video where we talk more about this so you can check that out in more detail. But the second thing, as far as the right way to learn songs, is understand song form. This is kind of a cool hack because once you realize that most songs follow a similar form, every song starts to make a little more sense and actually become a little bit more predictable. So in a way, this is the thing that will, ruin all future songs for you because you'll realize, wait a second, this is predictable. Every song follows the same format. Every great song follows a similar formula. Nobody is reinventing the wheel when there's a new hit song. That new hit song is probably very similar. When you dig down to the core, bare bones pieces of it, foundation of it, it's going to be very similar to the hit songs in the 90s, and the 80s, and the 70s, and the 60s. Some things never change. So what you'll find is that a lot of pop songs follow this A, B, A, B, C, B form. What I mean by that, A is the verse, B is the chorus, C is the bridge. So most songs have a verse, chorus, right? And then another verse, chorus. And then there's always going to be something different that kind of functions as like the conflict, the big climax moment in the song that makes it feel complete if we're thinking in terms of story. And that's the bridge. The bridge might be something really short and simple, or it could be something long and extended and crazy, but it's always going to bring you back to where you started, which will be another chorus or a verse. And so most songs follow that format where it's literally just verse, chorus, bridge, chorus. Or we could think of that as A, B, C, B, or we could condense that even more and like state it in super simple terms of A, B, A. You know, in that case, A would be a verse chorus, B would be something in the middle that's different, the conflict, the climax, the bridge, and then A back to where we started. And so when you realize that, and when you learn a lot of songs and you write a lot of charts for songs, you start to notice all these trends, and you get to where you can kind of hear where a song's going and feel where it's going. And specifically within certain genres, you notice that. Like, I've been playing in church for 13 years now. And after 13 years of playing in church and playing worship music from over the last couple decades, like worship music from the late 90s until now, you start to notice a lot of things that all these songs have in common and this style has in common. And so you get to where you can kind of, I could make stuff up for a new worship song on Sunday morning that I haven't heard before, and it's probably going to be pretty similar to what's on the record. I don't mean that at all in a cocky way, like I know how every worship song goes and they're all predictable. I don't mean it in a cynical way either. It's just that there are certain things that pop up within styles of music. And so I could probably throw some parts together in a worship song I haven't heard before, and it's going to work because I'm going to play within that mindset of that genre. Likewise, if you're playing in a party band and you play a lot of 70s pop, a lot of 80s hits, then you kind of learn the vocabulary of that genre. And when you do that, you can easily fake your way around that genre and make something up, and it's going to work fine. Long story short here, familiarize yourself with song form, which will happen as you chart more songs, which I teach you to do in that guide. And do lots of listening, like listen to a lot of music, and you'll notice a lot of these common trends within certain genres. Third right way to learn songs, and definitely this is very important, but it's also a very deep topic that we can only skim the surface with here right now. But learn how to craft parts that fit by paying attention to the melody. What I want you to do whenever you're listening to music, any music that has a vocal and drums, or vocal and anything else for that matter, pay attention to how the other instruments, and especially the drums, interact with and react with and reinforce the vocal. Because what you'll find is that a good drummer, a good drum part in a hit song, they're going to stay out of the way of the vocal, out of the way of the melody, or they're going to reinforce it in some way or another, or maybe fill gaps left by it. For instance, if there's a big drum fill, so listening to any song out there, if you hear a big drum fill, I doubt it that big drum fill is going to be happening in the middle of a certain line that the singer is singing. That drum fill is going to be happening because a vocal phrase just ended. We've got a fill and then a next vocal phrase. That's why fills are always at the end of a section, generally speaking, where we finish a section. So that means the vocalist just finished, melody's over, drums are filling in that space, bam, back into the melody. And so at a very simple level, that's what you'll notice, where it's kind of a call and response, a back and forth, where if there's a busy melody going on, the drums are very simple because you don't want to get in the way of that. And then you get your turn. There's a space left by the melody, a drum fill happens, or maybe a kick drum pattern reinforces the rhythm of the melody. Maybe there's an accent on the snare that hits with kind of an accent that the singer sings. And so you'll find that you can craft your grooves and even craft your fills based around the melody and the feel and the rhythm of what the singer's doing, which is really cool. And that's very liberating when you realize that, when you make that connection and you find that, oh, melody is the most important thing in music. And if I base my playing around melody, I'm always going to sound good. I'm always going to sound musical. That's really key. And so that's the thing to listen for. We talk about listening. Melody is the thing to listen for the most, even more than bass. Yes, the drum-bass relationship is a tight one. That's a key one in the band. But the biggest thing you should pay attention to isn't really the bass. It's the singer. It's the melody. Whoever has the melody at that point, you should be basing your parts off of that. That's something that we go more in depth with in that guide. I actually have a full-blown course on the website about this. It's called Song Learning University. It's awesome. It goes in depth with every single detail, every single step of this. And so if you need extra help with this, extra guidance, maybe that's for you. It's on the site. But in the meantime, check out the PDF e-guide because that's free. It's a great way to really get going with this. All in all, these things are going to help you know how to relax when you're playing with a band. The other thing that I don't want to gloss over here is that you have to have solid technical skills. You've got to be working your hand technique. You've got to be building your coordination so that a basic groove can be on autopilot, so that you don't have to think hard to play a basic fill. When those things are happening, then you can focus a lot more brain power on listening. And all of that together helps you relax and play well with a band and play confidently. The basics have got to be autopilot. That way, the more complex subtlety and nuance of music, that can be what you're thinking about. That's what you want to be thinking about on a gig. Not worried about, I hope I play this fill right, or why is this kick pattern not feeling right? Don't worry about those things. hopefully you've got that under control because you're working your hand technique, you're working your coordination, you're playing as much as you can, logging the repetition. But then when it comes gig time, when it comes jam time, or when you're playing along with songs at the end of your practice time maybe, you're focusing on listening. So grab that e-guide, my free gift to you, 5 steps to learning any song in under an hour. It breaks down so much of what we just covered here, but in key action steps so that you can follow these 5 steps. The big thing in this guide that we didn't talk about today specifically is writing charts. Because if you can write like a shorthand cheat sheet chart for a song, that really helps you with learning it. It helps you with memorizing it and internalizing it and seeing the form in your head. If you're at all a visual learner, this is going to help you a ton. And if you're more of an oral learner, then doing the critical listening is going to help you a lot with that. Either way, I think that this is very powerful. And even if you don't consider yourself a charts person, I want you to use a shorthand cheat sheet chart as a memorization tool, even if you don't touch it. Even if you write it and then throw it aside, it's going to help you internalize the song more and make more sense of it, and therefore play the songs better. And so definitely check out the guide, all sorts of good stuff in there, solid tips. And there's some additional lessons here on the channel too, specifically, if you think you lack fill creativity, try this. It's one of my favorite lessons here about improvising fills and building fills based off of melodies and actually taking a melody and a rhythm and crafting a fill based on that. Really cool. I think you'll enjoy it. That's a recent video here on the channel in the description. The other one is that 6 listen exercise video with the critical listening exercise. It's called 5 must-know ear training exercises for drummers. And so we talk about that exercise and some other things too, which is super cool, super helpful. So if you want to go deeper with this, you know where to go. And finally, question for you. What step can you take right now to become a better song player and more musical drummer? In other words, have you been guilty of being out of balance with your song learning approach? Like maybe you've been using too much sheet music, and maybe you need to just wean yourself off sheet music and say, I'm going to try to learn a song without consulting sheet music. Or I'm going to try to figure out that drum fill and play that song as authentically as I can without watching the original drummer's breakdown of it on YouTube. So in other words, I'm going to work on training my ear so I can pick up more and figure out more of this on my own. Wherever you are on this spectrum, I want you to do some self-analysis and figure out, all right, what do I need to work on? What do I need to do better? Should I download Steven's guide? My answer is yes, download Steven's guide. Download the song learning guide. That's going to help you out so much. That's a no-brainer. You can print it off, take it to your practice room, download it, have it on your iPad, whatever you want to do. But also check out those other lessons. My guess is that something here was for you, and whatever it was, you can take that and run with it. Work on becoming a better song player, not just drummer who can play a few songs. Don't be that guy who can nail the one song on Guitar Hero and beat everybody on that one Guitar Hero song, but not actually be good at Guitar Hero. I want you to take a balanced approach, and I want you to be a musical drummer who can learn a 30-song set. You can do it. You can do all of this. When you avoid these misleading tactics and you follow my strategies, my method, my steps here, you can get to where you're mastering songs and you're able to prepare for huge cover gigs in a lot less time than you think. Yes, learning songs is work, but it gets a lot faster and a lot more streamlined and efficient the more of it you do. So download the guide, get started, and you're going to get really good at this. Trust me, I believe in you. I hope you do too. Know that you can do this. Know that you can do this, as always. Thanks so much for hanging out today. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great week. I'll see you on the next lesson. Stay non-glamorous.